2010, people throughout the U.S. came together to report on human rights in our communities.
We are gonna overcome this storm.
Yes, we are.
Because we're gonna fight this battle.
We spoke out to inform the UN's review of the U.S. human rights record
during a process known as the Universal Periodic Review.
We wrote reports to the UN,
Spoke with government officials,
and we submitted video testimony.
Whether or not we were profiled because we were black, because of our sexual orientation, because we were women, I'm not really quite sure what it is that we were pulled over for.
There's something scandalous to make a profit on the illnesses and sicknesses of other people.
Our stories illustrate the gap between American ideals and American reality,
so we can make real change to improve our lives.
Tonight, there is anger here in New York City over 5 police officers firing 50 rounds into a car last weekend, killing 1 man, wounding 2 others. The victims were black and unarmed.
I'm already scared in New York.
November 25th, 2006 would have been a wedding day for him, but on that day was the day he lost his life with police brutality, shooting at him and other guys 50 times. They felt that they did not violate his civil rights.
How many shots have to sing before we hear freedom ring?
What's happening in Detroit is a subsection of what's happening in the United States. New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta, New Orleans, Seattle, Washington, San Antonio. Many of the people that have died, the 300 funerals that we've gone to, many of them have started with the profiling in terms of who the person happens to be. This young lady here was shot in an altercation with the police, and this young man here was a father. He had 4 children. Was just walking home and was stopped by the police. He never made it home. It gets to the heart of the thing that this is really about the question of humanity.
I met an old man whose children had been tortured in front of him until he signed something to say his 2 nephews were members of Al-Qaeda. If you torture someone's children in front of them, they will sign anything.
My son was born in Cumberland Hospital in Brooklyn, New York. He was a wonderful boy. I was everything for him and he was everything for me. He was in solitary confinement at the break for 3.5 years, but I know he was tortured. You don't even treat an animal the way my son was treated. What are they going to get out of torturing people? If you don't want to talk, do you think that me torturing you, hitting you, taking your blanket away from you, leave you in the cold, on the floor, sitting on the floor, not giving you food, and do you think that's going to make you talk? That's the reason why I'm speaking out now.
Yo venía de mi cita de cuidado prenatal y nomás de repente el policía prendió las luces.
The preference for law enforcement in Tennessee is to give a person without a driver's license a citation. In this particular case, the officer decided to take Juana into custody, despite the fact that she was 8.5 months pregnant and had 3 children with her in the car.
Se me rompió la fuente para tener a mi bebé. Cuando llegamos al hospital, que me subieron a la cama para cuando carreran te suben a la cama, me tuvieron expulsada de esta mano y del pie.
Nashville has a 287G program in which ICE Immigration and Customs Enforcement, contracts with local law enforcement.
Por decir, me lié el domingo, tuve 3 días en el hospital. Me regresaron hasta el martes. En el hospital no me dejaron, cuando mi esposo no estuvo en el parto, yo en el hospital siempre estuve sola.
Nosotros, los trabajadores del campo, vivimos una de las peores situaciones dentro de este país. Y como también lo puede ver la gente, que es recibir salarios bajos, estar trabajando 10, 12 horas, estar aguantando el intenso calor, el estar expuesto siempre a una situación donde tarde o temprano a uno le van a gritar, lo van a pegar, lo van a tener a uno bajo lo que es la esclavitud. Y mientras que existe la violación, existe la esclavitud, existe lo que son los diferentes abusos que uno enfrenta, nunca vamos a decir que tenemos un mundo justo, un país justo.
Hundreds of people wearing bright red T-shirts proclaiming that health care is a human right crammed into a large meeting room at the State House.
It's a basic human right to be able to get health care. Fundamental, a moral human right. But since the market controls what happens with health care services, people cannot get insurance.
I can't afford treatment if it is serious. If I go and find out that this is cancer, I've essentially bankrupted my family. On the other hand, if I don't go get treatment and it's cancer, I've left them without a dad.
Probably at least 50% of the patients that I take care of never should have ended up in the ICU. I've seen people with diabetes, even well-managed diabetes, that ignore small ulcers on their feet that are easily treatable, but they can't get treatment for because they don't have insurance, and they end up losing their foot, sometimes their entire leg.
Healthcare is not a commodity, but a public good. We look at our schools as a public good, our police departments, our fire departments. Why is it that we can't look at healthcare in the same way? We say we can and we should.
I think some people would say or would argue that the saddest day in New Orleans history was the day that the levees broke after Katrina came close to the city. But I'd argue that perhaps the real saddest day was the day that the city council voted to demolish public housing in the city.
This is one of the public housing development that's supposed to be demolished, that had over 1,000-some families living here. It just hurts my heart to see all this. Here's a family here would stand here. Where did these families go?
The problem with what happened with public housing post-Katrina was this.
All public housing residents in New Orleans were forcibly told to leave their apartments. They did not have a choice.
We have huge contracts that have been let for demolition of housing. So if the money's there to demolish, not to rehab, you're going to demolish. The action follows the dollars.
I guess ever since our people had to give up the teepee, the housing became an issue and a problem for us. It's not enough, never enough housing for our people.
We have a certain unique
legal and political relationship because of treaties.
The United States government needs to live up to their federal trust responsibility and provide what they promised in their treaties to our American Indian people in exchange for our lands.
As their council representative, I feel very frustrated because these are human beings living up there, you know, in this real bad living condition.
There are people out there with no electricity, no running water. Their houses are run down.
This is a problem, and it needs to stop.
Racial profiling's out there, and I am a prime example of it.
There must be means of holding government accountable for failing to meet human rights standards.
The idea of that promise that we can live the way we want to live and we can love who we want to love.
Face-to-face, grassroots organizing is the only way we can ever leverage enough power to beat their money.
I believe that all power comes from the people and all power should go back to the people. So that's my message to the world, is all power to the people.